Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today we're working on something that we're trying to find a rotation crop we can do after our anemones are done. We used to raise lilies in our crates after our anemones are done, but now that we don't do that, we're experimenting with an annual we tried a few years ago, and we had quite a bit of success actually as it, and it's ornamental basil. So why don't you stay tuned and we'll show you what we're doing. So the whole reason we got into raising anemones in crates were the anemones actually were the fall-winter rotation after we finished our lilies. Because we used to buy our lilies in what they called programmed lilies, meaning they were primed and ready to grow to bloom as quickly as possible after you planted them. So our bulb supplier would basically have these guys ready to go, and we would buy various lots starting in about February. Well, actually it was later than February, but probably around March, we would start planting Asiatic lilies and Oriental lilies and all that, and that's what we use these crates for. But when they were finished, we'd pull the lilies out and then we would plant anemones. Well, a number of years ago, lilies kind of fell out of favor with our florists. A lot of customers just equated, if they heard the word lily, they immediately determined it was too fragrant for them. And in our area, it became very difficult for us to sell the lilies like we had done for a number of years, so we just kind of pushed it out of our rotation, which left now an interesting conundrum that we mainly were raising the anemones in the crates, but we need a rotation that would be good for the summertime because we will then come back in October and be planting our anemones again. So we have basically from about the end of April till pretty much early October, where these crates, if we don't put an annual in here, they just kind of sit. And that's a really wasted resource. So what we're going to be doing this year is we're experimenting with a number of different things. First thing we're going to do here is we're planting ornamental basil. We raised it a number of years ago, and it worked out pretty well. And ornamental basil is not it's not like the succulent basils that people would use from culinary purposes to make pesto and things like that. It tends to be stronger upright plant and not as easily wilting, and when you take care of it in a normal way you would of a green, it actually lasts quite a long time in a bouquet.
They're still edible.
They are edible, but they're just a different variety to it, and they come in different flavors
And colors.
and colors. Some of them are bicolor, some are just straight greens, and then we have some that are actually purple itself. We have a cinnamon flavored one and one that is a Thai aromatic, I guess its official name is, which I'm guessing is a little bit on the spicy side. And so we've got like 4 different varieties in here that we're planting today. We've already planted most of them, and we did this also as part of another experiment because we like to fool around. We are instead of doing the normal bump up, we raise these guys in mini blocks and are planting the mini blocks directly in. Now, one of the things that we've always had trouble with mini blocks is getting enough adequate fertilization for them, because the roots of the plants would begin to intertwine within the blocks, and we would end up with sometimes, particularly with field, we'd end up with a poorer plant. But we think that maybe the way to overcome this, particularly in this environment in here, which is a little more controlled, we can keep the media really damp for the first 2 weeks or so after transplant, because we know that when we pull these mini blocks apart, we're going to be pulling roots, and we're going to be setting back the plant a bit in terms of its root system is pretty constrained. So here's an example of the last group that we're going to plant. It's cinnamon basil, and these guys, they're roughly, I think we planted these on the 8th of March, 8th of April, and but even so, they were a little slower growing and a little slow to germinate, but we are now in the first week of June, so these guys have been growing in these blocks and fertilized on pretty extreme. We probably could have planted them several weeks ago, but I wanted to give you an example of how the roots basically grow together. And these guys, when you pull them apart, you try to be as gentle as possible, but at this stage, you're really definitely, you've got some root mass here that's been damaged. But the plant itself, we think will recover, and it's going to be interesting to see just how robust the plant will be. We'll have to definitely fertilize, keep the medium moist for a couple of weeks until it can reestablish some good root system. So what we're going to be doing is planting these guys. We're putting 8 of these plants in a crate, and these crates were all we really spent a week prior to getting planting in here. We would come in and irrigate these guys every day. Sometimes we had to do it twice when we were really hot, but the whole idea is we wanted to make sure there was moisture all the way through the crates themselves. The crates have about 6 inches of a mixture of compost, potting soil in it, and that's going to be the root media. So we didn't treat it with any JMS at this point prior to this, so we're not going to be using JMS at least prior to planting. We did take care of inoculating these guys in our standard way of doing it pre-planting, so these guys have already been inoculated. And so basically it's just a matter of dibbling in the holes and sticking them in. So the planting process itself will go pretty fast. We also made sure that before we got to this point that these guys in the mini block were really well hydrated. So everything has been really well hydrated, and I think that's probably going to be the key to success.
We're moving into a couple of days of cooler weather, which will help in terms of not frying them.
And like we said, we're going to have some cooler weather, so that'll also help kind of maybe alleviate some of the transplant shock. We actually pushed this out, planting out even a week further, because we've had some, for us, fairly hot days, which inside this crate house with the plastic covering even fully vented can make it pretty warm. So we wanted to kind of alleviate the stress. So planting is really easy once we dibble the holes. It's just a matter of putting the mini block in, get it down, and then we just make certain that we're covered. Now, we didn't get 100% germination on these guys, so one of the things is we're going to be a lot of, as they go through and rip these apart, there are going to be a few duds. Now, how are we going to fertilize and how are we going to water? Well, the fertilization is we're going to be using the Jadam liquid fertilizer, the grass-based one, and we're going to be applying that at a ratio of 1 part per 200, and we're going to be doing it at least initially on a 10-day rotation, and we'll just see how the plants respond. But we'll only fertilize up to the point where the plant begins to get to the point where we're going to be starting harvest, and then we'll stop. Now that point is when we start seeing it trying to elongate into blossoms and things of that nature. That kind of indicates the end of the cycle, and we'll be ready for harvest time. So we'll put 8 in a crate, and I think I've got a total here of, this was a small block, there's probably about 60 in here, so we'll probably end up doing, maybe eight crates of this variety. So let's just finish this off, and then we can show you what the last steps are going to be. Okay, so we got them all in, and then what we did is we went through and we wetted things down really well. It's going to be cooler. We're going to have some overcast days for the next couple of days, so that'll hopefully help these guys get acclimated in here before we go back into some kind of really severe heat. And like I said, it's probably going to take these guys a couple of weeks to get their root systems back into gear where they'll be going pretty good. I'm thinking I might need to pinch some of these guys to get them to branch a little more and not be so leggy, because they were, like I said, we kind of kept them in the mini blocks longer than we probably really should have. I think in a perfect world, we should have been able to get these guys in the ground in about 25 days. Instead, we ended up spending, well, way more than that. I think we're closer to, I don't want to say 60, but we're almost double of what it was. So,
well, it's an experiment.
It's an experiment, and so we abused them. So this is the key. Can we bring something back that we slapped around real good?
Not what you're supposed to do, but hey, let's find out.
We're not professional here, so don't follow this. No.
But let's find out.
We're going to find out if it works, I think. So I'll let it go for a couple of days, and then probably starting next, I'm thinking, the next week, after these guys have maybe had like 3 to 4 days to kind of get their sea legs under them, make sure we keep the moisture level even, and we'll start fertilizing process at that point. And then we'll see what these guys look like, whether we pinch or not. We can get some more branching off of these guys. That might make a lot of sense, so we can get more bushiness, which would probably be a better thing for what we're trying to cut these things for anyway. So what do you think?
We'll see.
We still got a lot of crates left.
Yeah, we got to think of some more things that maybe we could try in here.
Well, we were thinking azuritum.
Yes.
Some what'd you say? They're a type of zinnia that's not really a zinnia. Jazzies, yeah.
That are really kind of good for
kind of like a spray.
Yeah, they're not super tall.
Yeah.
And it might make it easier to cut them in here.
Yeah, and they can take the heat.
Yes.
So that would be good. So, and that's why we're thinking azuritum too, because azuritum can kind of take a hot.
Right. These are summer. These are hot season, summer season type flowers.
Right.
We're thinking maybe some Ceteria.
Some kind of smaller, not the super tall grass.
Right. But, yeah. No, we're not putting in.
Yeah, we only have 6.
Yeah, we're not going to put in our. What is that?
Sorghum in here?
Sorghum,
no,
yeah.
No.
Maybe quinoa?
Yeah, no, that's the thing, because that would cycle through pretty fast.
Yeah.
And it would only get probably about 4 foot tall tops, which will be, about like that?
Maybe, yeah. So it's something to think about.
And that would be protected from the deer, because deer love to eat
quinoa.
Yeah. So, and that's a cool idea. We'll do that.
So that's just some of the things we're thinking of. Yeah, it's an experiment.
The whole key is we have to be sure that whatever goes in here, it's now the first week of June, and we have to be sure that we can rotate out.
Yeah, by October, because the whole season starts over in October.
Exactly.
Everything.
Yep. So, thanks for joining us on this little video. It's going to be an interesting experiment. We'll probably check back through in a few weeks just to see.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we'll do either posts. You follow the posts on YouTube or Instagram.
Yep.
And that will be. We may just, if it looks super neat, we'll make another video and see.
And if you don't see anything, oops,
if you don't see
failed.
Anything, then like everybody else on YouTube, it failed.
Because we only showed the pretty. Nope.
Nah, we'll show you the ugly.
We'll show you the ugly.
So thanks for coming along, and as always, stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.